After being swept in the first two series of Big Ten Conference play, the Nittany Lions will look to get back on track against the Michigan Wolverines on Wednesday. Welcome back to another edition of Penn State Sports Night. I'm Chris Lemmo alongside Jacob Cheris and Logan Bourandas. Penn State struggled to keep Wisconsin's offensive firepower contained as the Nittany Lions allowed 13 goals in 2 games. Why did Penn State struggle so much defensively and in net?
Well, quite simply, Chris, they just could not match the speed of Wisconsin. Look, they couldn't contain Wisconsin star players, especially Cole Caulfield. And as a matter of fact, 2 of Wisconsin's star players were out. Dylan Holloway was at the World Juniors and Ty Belton Bice was concussed. And they could not match the speed of Wisconsin. There was so much open ice in both those games. And Penn State's defense is not really known for its speed. And also in goal, Oscar Audio and Liam Solier are both getting used to playing at a collegiate stage, and Audio is still getting used to becoming a number 1 goaltender, but both of them, they didn't really look fluid in that. Their movements weren't fluid, and they weren't really coming out of their crease to aggressively to face shots. And this especially gave snipers like Caulfield so much net to shoot at. And also special teams were a huge problem because Penn State's power play so far this season is 1 for 13.
Well, on the offensive side, Penn State just couldn't get past the brick wall in net that was Robbie Beydoun. He was excellent, the grad student was for Wisconsin. And Wisconsin last year, they struggled to get a really solid goaltender and really solid defense. Now they look like they have at least one of those positions filled, and we saw it in the Penn State series. Beydoun had a .933 save percentage while saving 49 shots in the first game of the series, and he had a .931 save percentage while saving 35 shots in game 2. And up until the Arizona State series, he's looked really good so far for this Wisconsin team, and he's turned them into a really surprising team early on in the Big Ten. And on the other side with the goaltending, the Nittany Lions just haven't been able to get it going. Jacob, you kind of mentioned it before, with Solier and Audio both trying to get into that starting goaltender spot. Solier gave up 6 goals in that first game, and he only made 20 saves in his one start. Then Audio wasn't much better. He gave up 6 goals as well, while only saving 14 shots. So they kind of split time in that series, but none of them could really get past Cole Caulfield in this series. So that was really a huge problem there for Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, both goalies had good saves, but also at the same time, especially in game 1, Audio could have come up with big saves at the first 2 goals of the game. And Solier in game 2 gave up a bad rebound, and rebound control has been a problem with both goaltenders. I mean, we thought at the start of the year that goaltending was going to be a question. Now it's really in the concern area. It's definitely a concern, and you can't win without good goaltending.
I completely agree. Good goaltending really can make or break a team, as we saw this past weekend with Penn State. Moving on to the bright spots, what are some positives that head coach Guy Gadowski can take away from the series despite the pair of losses?
Just one name really to look at, Kevin Wall. He's got 3 goals, 1 assist in these first 4 games, and he's broken out as the huge bright spot on this Penn State team. And this is a sophomore that we didn't really see a lot of playing time from him last year, but now with an increased role from head coach Guy Gadowski, we've seen a lot more of him early on in the season, and he's really exceeding these expectations put on him. He's got a great 200-foot game. He's really good on the forecheck, great two-way player, and it seems like the only time where Penn State's really getting the offensive momentum going, it's through Kevin Wall. And he only had 7 points last season with just 2 goals and 5 assists. And it's really early on in the season, but it's looking like the sophomore from New York can really break that mark really early on in the season.
Yeah, he's getting to the dirty areas. He's breaking up a lot of he's really good on the forecheck. Like you said, he's causing a lot of turnovers. We saw that in the Wisconsin series. I believe the 3rd goal that Penn State had in that blowout, Connor McMenamin scored because of the forecheck from Wall. So that's a really good sign. And also, the other freshmen have been pretty good too. Tyler Paquette, he scored his first goal off of a rebound. Christian Sarlo scored his first collegiate goal against Minnesota. They've all been pretty good, but the top 6 has yet to find any sort of consistency, which is a major problem. But other than that, the bright spot is as a team, they outshot Wisconsin in game 1, 20-7 in the first period, and that totaled for 52 shots in the entire game. But that has to that has to happen, more often, because we're used to seeing a Penn State offense that has a lot more talent. So I don't know if we're criticizing harshly because of how the amount of offensive talent that they lost. So I think what Penn State needs to do to fix that, get to the middle of the ice, and you'll be rewarded. Another thing too, puck management in the offensive zone has been very, very good. They've been working the puck down low, or moving the puck low to high and high down low very well, especially when they get set.
Penn State will certainly have to keep up that offensive zone pressure against Michigan to find a way to beat last season's Big Ten goaltender of the year, Strauss-Mann. With Penn State returning to Pagula for the first time all season, do you guys think that the Nittany Lions will be able to defend their home ice?
No, Michigan is just a powerhouse, and no pun intended, because Owen Power has been awesome, and he might be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I don't know if you guys have heard of this defenseman in the NHL. He goes by the name Victor Hedman. He may have won the Conn Smythe last year and was a finalist for the Norris, but, whatever. He has 4 points in 6 games so far as a defenseman. And Kent Johnson, a good player for Michigan who could go in the first round, leads the team with 7 points. Thomas Bordelot, Michael Pastujov, and obviously Strauss-Mann. But the good sign for Penn State going into the series, Michigan was swept by Notre Dame. That was a huge shocker because Notre Dame, we know they lost Kel Morris, their goaltender. They haven't been getting a lot of production, but that was really, really surprising. So that means Michigan, they're beatable. So I think what you have to do with your Penn State, score first, get on them early, play an aggressive forecheck. And you also got to make sure your line changes better be smart, because Michigan will bite you on transition if you don't line change well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. I think this series is going to end in a Michigan sweep. And you kind of hit on it before with Owen Power, but this freshman class that Michigan brought in, probably one of the best in the country, if not the best.
It is the best in the country.
It is the best. And Owen Power kind of headlines that. Jacob mentioned he'd be a top pick in next year's draft. He could definitely be at least a top 10 pick, probably a top 3 pick in my opinion. And if Penn State really wants to win this series, you see Wisconsin with Cole Caulfield, when he was struggling early on in the season, they still had other guys offensively to pick up the slack for him. So they were winning games. So I don't want to compare Kevin Wall to Cole Caulfield, but when he's gotten hot in these games, Penn State just hasn't had any other players on offense to pick up the slack. So guys like Sham Sternstein, Alex Limoges, they need to really step up. Arnie Tavillier, they all need to step up. So if Kevin Wall does slow down, Penn State's offense doesn't slow down as well.
It should be an exciting series as the Lions look to climb back into contention in the Big Ten. That's all for us here on this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Jacob Cheris and Logan Bourandas, I'm Chris Lemmo. Thanks for watching and have a great night.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.